my brothers and sisters in gaming. Welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm your host Jonathan here at QuickBird Gaming, and thank you for tuning in for another video. I really appreciate that. So in this week's episode of QuickBird News, we're covering all of the video game news for the week of 18 to 24 May. And as you can tell by the thumbnail, we have quite the clown show going on. Can't seem to go a month in this industry without some CEO putting one or both feet in their mouth. And this tradition continues. The CEO in question is, of course, none other than Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox Games, best known for the Borderlands franchise. And Borderlands is at the heart of this matter. Borderlands 4 is scheduled to release on September 12th of this year. But as noted in the title of this Eurogamer article from May 20th, which was this last Tuesday, $80 for Borderlands 4 are too costly. Randy Pitchford says if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. Oof. So the upshot of this is, the basics is that somebody back on May 13th had tweeted to Pitchford about the game saying, Randy, it better not be $80. Don't take the risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of the constant increase of price tag. You're the CEO. You have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher. Pitchford responded the next day, not my call. If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen. Yikes. I mean, put aside the fact that the world is a different place 35 years on in terms of inflation, cost of living increase for everything across the board, working a minimum wage job. A lot of people can't even pay rent or put bread on the table, let alone buy video games. It is what an incredibly out of touch and frankly condescending comment, which based on Pitchford history, this is not outside the norm. This kind of comment goes right in line with other things this dude has done and said. And as you can imagine, the community really didn't react too well to this. The response from Borderlands fans on social media was unsurprisingly swift, strong, and overwhelmingly negative. Thanks, now I won't buy the game even if it costs $70. That has to be one of the worst CEO replies from recent memory. Elitist and out of touch. Rich person just says, find the money. That's pretty spot on. Now, there's no official news of what Borderlands 4 will cost, so it still might not be $80, but Pitchford wasn't done there. In this article from VG247 from Wednesday, May 21st, that rage-inducing Borderlands 4 price tweet hasn't stopped Randy Pitchford posting, as he declares an indie game is, quote, cheaper than a point of meth. Now, this happened because after this debacle kind of blew up and he was catching a lot of heat, Devolver Digital busted in, tweeted this: you're going to be able to buy My Co-Punk for you and 3 of your friends for the price of one copy of Borderlands 4, to which Pitchford responds, it's cheaper than a point of meth, probably has fewer side effects too. What an asshole. I mean, there's just no other way to put this. This guy just, I mean, condescension ought to be his middle name. Now, I think that so much of this really blew up on Pitchford's. The response was so negative. I suspect he got leaned on by the higher-ups at Take-Two, because shortly after that, according to this Forbes article also published on the 21st, he responded to this price debacle. And see, there's the original tweet there. He responded to this price debacle by posting something from a Q&A from, I think it was from several months ago, where he went on about a 3-minute spiel saying, I don't know what the game's going to be, but if it's going to be a good game, so it's going to be worth the cost, whatever it is. I don't know why he just didn't say that this time, but felt the need to be a pompous jerk to this person who asked him the question, a person who really didn't even say anything that wrong. There's a lot of frustration out there about the price points of games these days, and people are concerned about this. And Pitchford's response was, to say it was lacking, to say the least. I don't think there's going to be any disagreement about that. He, like I said, he was dismissive, and it is bad PR. I don't know how Borderlands is going to do. I lost interest in the franchise, and because of some of Take-Two's other policies, specifically regarding their data harvesting in EULAs and their kernel level intrusiveness, I won't be playing any more of their games. However, I think a lot of people we're looking forward to Borderlands 4, and I just wonder how much effect this is going to have on the game going forward. If you ask me, my opinion, I think this is going to end up costing $80, and I think that Take-Two, like Microsoft, like Nintendo, and soon to be like the other companies, all the big companies are going to start leaning into a new $80 price tag for the majority of their games. I expect this to happen. So I expect Borderlands 4 will be kind of a test bed for Take-Two to see how it goes. Which is ironic because we have just this year, since this calendar year, we have seen an explosion of games, all of which have been reasonably priced. Some of the best performing games of the year. You think about Split Fiction, was priced, I think, at $50 and could be played by 2 people at that price, sold 4 million copies. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 was priced at $50, sold 2 million copies. You think about successes of games like Schedule 1, which have done really, really well. You think about Blueprints, which I believe was priced at $30 and has been exceedingly well received. Even games like the Oblivion remake, $50, and it's hours, could be hundreds of hours of quality entertainment. Or Take-Two's own Mafia of the Old Country is going to be $50. We're seeing a lot of games that are reasonably priced against the current model. So I think that AAA games, with some small exceptions, with a few exceptions, things like GTA 6, it doesn't matter what it's priced, it's going to sell a ton. The next Call of Duty game will sell well enough to justify it at any price. It's going to sell. But I think a lot of other games are going to start to see a drop-off, especially if they're released buggy and broken like so many games are. And I don't think Borderlands has quite the same backing that it had 10 to 12 years ago when Borderlands 2 was out, which was a great game, but Borderlands 3 was less well received. Borderlands pre-sequel was not as well received, didn't sell as much, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, most people were just kind of like meh. So I don't think it's got the same energy it had. It remains to be seen how well this does, but I guess we'll see. So my money is on it being $80, and my money is on Pitchford continuing to put both feet in his mouth pretty much anytime he has the opportunity. One last thing I want to add before I move on from this subject. In this video clip that's on the screen here, it's linked in the Forbes article, in addition to talking about the potential price, Pitchford also confirmed that the budget for Borderlands 4 is more than twice the budget for Borderlands 3, and I believe Borderlands 3 was confirmed to have been about $140 million. So we're talking in the neighborhood of $300 million for this game. Now, by the time you take out the cuts from the storefronts, say Steam or Epic or GameStop, from the $80 price tag, you're probably talking that this game needs to sell 5 or 6 million copies to recoup its development cost, not to mention marketing cost, and the marketing cost is easily going to be an 8 or 9 figure add-on. I get Borderlands 4 ads on YouTube multiple times a day now, so I figure it's going to be hefty. So this game, like I said, is probably going to need to sell 5 or 6 million copies. Not saying it can't do it, but that's a hell of a hole to be putting yourself in from the beginning, especially when you got a kind of a loose cannon as your CEO who's out there pissing off potential customers. It's food for thought. We're going to see what happens. If for some reason this game doesn't come out of the gate really strong, Gearbox could be and just joining the growing list of studios that finds themselves in financial hot water. And speaking of studios in hot water, we have this article from Insider Gaming from Monday, May 19th. Former Marathon developer says working on the game was toxic. A former Bungie employee who worked on Marathon during his time at the studio says working on the game was extremely toxic and humiliating. In a post on social media, a former developer known as Spirited, who worked on the engineering side of the game, said he still felt for those who work on the game at the studio. Working with engineering Marathon leadership was extremely toxic and humiliating. I won't speak about the rest, but Bungie leadership needs to be gutted completely. Now, this is just the latest in a string of kind of bad news posts for Bungie. Obviously, I covered last week that they had allegedly I'm still going to use the word allegedly, but they had allegedly lifted the art style for Marathon completely from the user NetherRealm, from this individual's published artwork, and was all included in the game. Then, and there's also the article, it says down here, has been the headlines, is accused of stealing artwork. In addition to that, it's been reported morale in Bungie is currently at free fall. You don't have to dig very deep into the internet discourse to find a lot of negativity surrounding Marathon. The fact that the alpha playtest had extremely mixed results, the fact that a lot of streamers are not too interested in it, the fact that it is releasing with a $40 price point, and what I would call its direct competitor, Arc Raiders, is also an extraction shooter, and is releasing free to play. So there's a lot of problems and a lot of issues here at at Bungie for Marathon. And no matter how much some of the legacy media types want to hype this game up, it's not resonating with the player base, and I think people have had it with Bungie's repeated seeming theft of other people's work. This is not the first time it's happened. I did cover that in detail in last week's episode. And yeah, here it is right there. The original report reads, everyone has the same concerns about what happens to Bungie as a studio if Marathon bombs, which is something they absolutely cannot afford. Yeah, I think if that happens, I think Bungie's finished, which is could potentially take down games like Destiny 2 with it. And this game is again supposed to release in September, and they've got this whole host of problems, and the studio is in real trouble. So I wouldn't be investing heavily into Bungie right now if I were you. Sony, bought this studio. This is very possibly going to be another Concord. In fact, I'm hearing people call Marathon Concord 2.0. I don't know how true that is by any measure, because I haven't played either game. But if it fails and takes down Bungie with it, then it will have earned its title. Next up is this article from Eurogamer, published on Tuesday, May 20th. Avowed game director departs Obsidian, joins Netflix's gaming team. Now, this was a little interesting to me because, for one, I wasn't even really aware that Netflix had its own gaming studio. Apparently, they've been focused on mobile games and tie-ins to some of their IPs. But I guess they did make an effort a couple years back to form a more traditional game studio, and they were looking to start making some bigger AAA type of games. And let's see, see right here, Netflix gaming strategy has taken some dramatic shifts in directions. After an initial focus on mobile titles, it seemed ready to stride into AAA console gaming, hitting up veterans of Halo, Overwatch, and God of War to try and form a development team, but then they shuttered that studio, and now they have kind of got a new effort going, or they're continuing their mobile effort, and the director of Avowed, Kerry Patel, left Obsidian and has moved over there. Now, I think this is interesting just because the fact that you have a veteran of Obsidian Studios of 12 years, and Obsidian being known as it's a high profile and I would say rather prestigious, at least in terms of its pedigree and history, prestigious game studio. You have somebody leaving a games direction as a game director position there and moving to a job where there's not nearly as much prestige. Now, there are a couple of possibilities here. One is that Kerry Patel will move over there and have more creative freedom to do what they want. They don't have Obsidian, and above Obsidian, Microsoft looking over her shoulder as to what she's doing. She may be given the reins at Netflix to do what she wants. And that's a possibility. There may have been some behind-the-scenes problems at Obsidian, just interpersonal problems. It doesn't necessarily mean somebody was right or wrong, just if you don't get along with your boss type of situation, you look for a new job. Possible that was the situation. Third possibility is that, this is one of those situations where somebody gets told you need to resign or we're going to fire you type of thing. To me, this feels very similar to what happened to Corinne Bush back in January that I reported on this, that Bush, who was the head of Dragon Age, the Veilguard over at BioWare, left that studio and went to work for a outfit called Skeleton Key, which I think is under the Wizards of the Coast umbrella. I think that's where Skeleton Key is. So Bush ended up over there working for them, saying it was an opportunity that she couldn't turn down. And Patel is described this leaving of Obsidian as voluntary. But I wonder, neither of these games, I don't think, performed to expectations. Dragon Age especially, I think, has been pretty clearly established that it undersold. Now, Avowed, we don't have any kind of solid sales numbers on it. You know, and it was on Game Pass day one, so a lot of people say, okay, well, it did well enough for Obsidian and for Microsoft to be a Game Pass game. They had said, including, they meaning the team behind the game, including Patel, had said they wanted to do another game in that world, so we may be seeing Avowed too. But if it was a big success, why did the game director stick around? Possible, like I said, in examples 1 and 2, she had a better opportunity that would have worked better for her. But I think it's just as possible that she was kicked to the curb because this didn't work out. Either way, she's over there now. We'll see what happens with Netflix, and we'll see what happens with Obsidian going forward. Here's a bit of good news. According to this article from DualShockers published on Tuesday, May 20th, Stellar Blade 2 confirmed, coming before 2027. A few days ago, Shift Up officially revealed Stellar Blade, the complete edition, a full package of their title with the new content coming to PS5 and PC next month, June 11th, so about 3 weeks from right now. This will mark the first time Stellar Blade's playable on PC, though there are some region lock issues because of Sony's shenanigans. I covered those last week. But now that Stellar Blade development is coming to an end, Shift Up is not hesitant to confirm they are planning to develop and release a sequel. And I think this is good news. Stellar Blade was a pretty big hit, sold over 1 million copies when it was just on the PlayStation. If you look at the Steam DB, most wish-listed upcoming games, it is coming in at 17th. I know I saw it. Right here, 17th. And it is 14 in top sellers. And this is the number that really stands out to me. It's only been available on Steam for pre-order for a few days, and it's gaining a lot of ground. A lot of people are interested in it. So I think this could do really well for Shift Up on Steam, on PC, and that's going to be enough impetus for them to make a second one. So, for folks who love their action, adventure, and fighting styles, I love seeing new IPs, and I love seeing them be pretty well received. So, as I said up front, good news, a little bit of good news here. I reported last week that fans of Mortal Kombat 1 were concerned because the development studio had released a definitive edition of the game. And normally when you do that, you bundle all your DLCs and all your add-on content together and sell it at one price. And the fan concerns was that release signaled that there would be no further support or additional content for the game. And now those concerns have been made valid. In this article published on Games Radar on Friday, May 23rd, Mortal Kombat 1 dev confirms there will not be additional DLC characters or story chapters so that it can shift focus to the next project. And you drop down here, and the tweet from the dev studio says, "We are hearing players' requests for continued game support, and we will continue to provide support, or we continue to support Mortal Kombat 1 through balance adjustments and fixes. There will not be any additional DLC or story chapters released from this point on. They're going to move on to their next game, their next project." And fans were justifiably concerned and a little bit upset because it says down here, NetherRealm is right to assume this will be disappointing news to fans who have been united in hoping for more content, especially since the game only came out less than 2 years ago, and series boss Ed Boon has suggested it would get years of content in various interviews. Though the article does say it's worth noting Boone himself likely had little to do with the publisher Warner Brothers' decision to move on from the game. And that's probably true. Warner Brothers is in a tight financial situation right now. They probably felt that they've recouped what they can out of this game, and they're going to move on to the next one. They're not going to have a real long tail of extended support for games. I think they're going to stick to a very strict milestone plan with their games going forward. So this is not surprising, but I'm sure, again, it is disappointing for fans. So whatever fights you got, go out there and enjoy them. Next up is this article from PC Games In, which was published on Wednesday, May 21st. Helldivers 2 Steam numbers explode after update as Arrowhead mounts a comeback. This Helldivers 2 Steam count is the highest it's been since straight after launch, as the Heart of Democracy update sparks revival. In short, in the world of Helldivers 2, which is kind of a Starship Trooper-esque type of environment with one unified Earth government, Earth has been invaded, and it's up to the players to beat back the alien invasion. So this article talks about, for the first few months, it could do no wrong. It was unlike any of its other multiplayer rivals. Only started to wobble around May of 2024 when it was first announced players would have to link their accounts to the PlayStation Network. While it was eventually dropped, it damaged their reputation. Successive balancing updates, which over-engineered and flattened out some of the gun's most beloved weapons, caused further dismay from nearly 500,000 players at launch to 5 months later was down to 47,000. This article leaves unsaid that there were also some problems in the Helldivers community. They had community managers which were outright banning people, which seemed like for spurious reasons, and I think that further soured players on what was going on with Arrowhead Studios. And they said that though it's maintained a consistent player base through 2025, it never attracted more than 100,000 players again, getting to 97,000 in February. It also went from a very positive rating on Steam to mostly positive. It's just the game is still doing okay. It just never got to the heights it was, but now it's started to pick back up. You can go over to the Steam database, and showing as of early on Sunday morning of the 25th of May, so back on Wednesday of this week, it got back up to 163,000 players and has seen a spike from when it was doing 25,000 players each day. It has now climbed back up. So this is just another example of how a studio, if they stop focusing on things players don't want, such as requiring a PlayStation Network account to log into the game, to a game that already existed without having one, adding a layer of bureaucracy essentially on top of what the players have to do in order to engage. Even games that stop focusing on players doing what they want, if they will turn back around and give the players something they do want, the players will come back. It's a pretty good lesson for any multiplayer game. Well, are you ready for an Elden Ring movie? Ready or not, here it comes. According to this Game Rant article published on Thursday, the 22nd of May, Elden Ring is getting a live-action movie. And scroll down and we see Bandai Namco and A24 are teaming up for a live-action Elden Ring film. Alex Garland, the director of 28 Days Later and Ex Machina, is set to lead the project. They don't expect this to come out for some years yet. Now, as they say, after some much speculation, Bandai Namco has officially confirmed the studio is teaming with the production company to make a live-action Elden Ring. I didn't recognize Alex Garland's name, though I did see that when I get down, okay, there's the tweet announcing this. And when I get down here, I said he's best known for his work on the 28 Days Later film franchise, which he wrote the first two films, so 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later. He also wrote and partially directed the film Dredd, the 2012 adaptation of the comic Judge Dredd, which I actually found superior to the 1995 Sylvester Stallone one. And then this was interesting. He co-wrote Bandai Namco's Enslaved Odyssey to the West, which is a good game if you've never played it, and actually I think is very well written. Served as story supervisor on Devil May Cry. So this guy not only has a pedigree he's got some history and experience in the film industry, but also in the video game industry. So with him at the helm, we'll see what happens. I guess probably won't know for several years yet how this is going to shake out. As somebody in the comments section, this will either be the best video game adaptation in history or the biggest flop. And I guess time will tell. To close up, I'll bring you this article from PC Games In, published on Tuesday, 20 May. I don't know too much about this game. I had never heard of it before seeing this article, but I do like to highlight small indie studios that are trying to do God's work out here and keep the video game industry fresh. And this article is titled "Valorborn is an ambitious medieval RPG made by just 3 developers. With loads of RPG systems and a fully explorable world, it's offering a lot despite the size of its development team." Now, according to this writer, let's see, with an old school feel of games like Gothic and even a dash of RuneScape and embracing party-based gameplay, it's worth checking out. It's a medieval fantasy world home to everything you expect. You'll encounter, every single building, castle, and cave can be entered and explored. You can take your character down one of 2 paths: assemble a party of companions to aid you in battle, or become a lone ranger taking on everything solo. Should you choose to bring other characters along for the ride, you'll not only unravel your own story, but theirs as well. And the guy says, "I love a good companion quest line." So this feels like a pretty standard type of RPG fare, the kind of stuff we normally see. But what impresses me is it's a 3-man studio. There are 3 people working on this game, and it's supposed to release sometime in the second half of this year. So I don't think I saw the date. But it does a wish list over on Steam. I've added it to my wish list just so I can keep track of it. Who knows? It may come out and it may be terrible. And it may be full of flaws and problems, and it may be too much for them to do. However, I still suggest you check it out at least and give it a chance, even if you just see what's going on with it, because it is a small studio. And we've seen some really great games coming out of small studios just this year alone. So like I said, I'd suggest if you like RPGs, at least keep it on your radar. There's a trailer here attached to this article that you can go watch. Like I said, it looks like it's a very standard RPG experience, but it might offer a new world and another opportunity to explore something that was not made by committee in the corporate halls. So anyway, for what that's worth, go check it out. Okay, I have definitely yapped long enough for this episode, so I'm going to leave it here. Thank you for sticking with me to the end of this video. As always, if you enjoy this content, please consider liking, subscribing to the channel. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if these stories are interesting. If I missed a major story this week you would have liked me to cover more. All that feedback is welcome, and I do appreciate it. So, it's time to shuffle off and do something else. Thank you once again for hanging with me. You all, go out there, live your best lives in games and out. And no matter what you do, y'all stay gaming.